Hey, welcome to another list of the easiest bosses from the Souls games. Today we're looking at Dark Souls 3 for this video, and again, just to reiterate from last time, just because I list a boss as easy doesn't mean I think they're bad, nor do I have fun fighting them. It just means what it says on the can. It means that I think they're easy. So, with that out of the way, let's get cracking. At number 5 is Crystal Sage. Crystal Sage is, as the name suggests, deals in magic attacks and is mostly about dodging the spells as and when they are cast. They are fairly easy to avoid if you're good at moving the camera around and keeping an eye on what the sage is doing. It can become a little tricky if you have a slow moving weapon, as you really want to be nimble in this fight. Be able to mash attack when you can and then bolt out at a moment's notice. If you have a raw Astora sword, then the damage you'll be doing will be so significant that fight is going to be over after a minute and a half? 2 minutes? And that's even with her second phase warping her around the room. In fact, the clones that appear don't do enough to confuse you, as the real sage is the one that's coloured purple. A little bit like that Fool's Idol fight from Demon Souls, except Fool's Idol was harder because, as far as I'm aware, there was no tell in that fight. So, back to the sage, just be fast in this fight, be aggressive. I think being fast and aggressive actually kind of pays off a lot of the time when it comes to Dark Souls 3. I think that's why the rolls are so quick and it costs less stamina. They really wanted a kind of quick combat system like Bloodborne, in my opinion at least. Anyway, I digress. Crystal Sage is still quite cool. The second phase just might be a little bit unlucky for you and you'll get hit by a couple of magic spells at the same time and maybe you'll die. But anyway, that's why it's at number 5 obviously and not number 1. So in at number 4 is Curse Rotted Greatwood. Curse Rotted is a really strange boss. I mean, look at it. It's a giant tree for a start. What is it with this game and trees? Anyway, it's an optional boss, but if you kill it, then you unlock the ability to trade items for boss souls, and that's reason enough. So you'll find that this tree is covered in sacks that you have to burst in order to do damage, and once you do, the tree gets pissed off and does a giant butt slam to break the ground open. First time you see this happen, you think you're going to die, but it's one of those times where fall damage is nice enough to not occur. It's at this point the tree sprouts out arms that can actually do a serious amount of damage if you're not careful. You may just get taken unaware and killed. I mean, on my first run at the game, I did die a few times to this boss, because I found it frustratingly difficult in the second phase to burst enough of the sacks. I've since found out, however, that you can do damage to the arms and finish the fight that way. With this in mind, it became incredibly easy. The tree is mostly very easy to avoid, so just wait for your opportunities to strike. If you see a sack, kill it. If you see an arm, kill it. Then the fight is over and now you can trade your boss souls. Yippee! In at number 3 is Ancient Wyvern. Alright, so with the Ancient Wyvern, it's at number 3 because even though you can literally one-shot this boss, it's the actual run-up to the boss that's the real fight. The snakes in Archdragon Peak are some of the hardest hitting mobs in the entire game, and of course the run-up to the plunging point for the Wyvern is just peppered with these enemies. Some big, some small. The big tanky guys wielding the axe and doing fire spells are the worst. And I think there's maybe at least 2 or 3 of them, so my advice is to just run past them, of course. Running past enemies has been a key strategy since Demon Souls, so don't even waste your time fighting these guys. It is not worth it. If you're concerned about items you're missing, then kill the Wyvern first, and then go back. But once you reach the plunging point, then drop down and get the kill. And that's it. Done. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a terrible design choice. I think it is a cool way to kill off a dragon, rather than fire a million arrows at it. But the fact that it's labelled as a boss is just weird. They didn't need to do that. If there was a way we could kill the dragons in Highwall and in Lothric Castle in a similar fashion, then that would be awesome. All Ancient Wyvern is a race at this point. a race that hopefully you won't get ganked upon during the run. Number 2 is High Lord Walner. So High Lord Walner is at number 2, and he's yet another gimmicky type boss. It's funny because he probably has one of the grandest appearances in the game. The dark room, the dark objects in front of you that you can't quite make out. But then take enough steps and boom, the biggest skeleton you will ever see in your life is staring down at you like an ant about to be squashed. It really is quite menacing looking. And judging by sheer appearance alone, it can really be quite intimidating, especially if you don't know what the gimmick is. You could be trying to do damage and getting nowhere, but as with all gimmick bosses, once you know their gimmick, then all threat has been completely removed. The big skeleton might as well look like a fluffy kitten. Yeah, hit High Lord where it hurts, his bling. And after 3 rounds of mashing the attack button on his bangles, he'll shrink away in shame. Walner is only ever threatening if you let this fight go on for too long, and he climbs up far enough that he starts summoning skeleton mobs to wreak havoc on you. Otherwise, there's no reason to let this fight go on for that length of time, so just get to work on the bangles instead. At number 1 is Deacons of the Deep. The Deacons are at number 1 because simply I think they are the easiest boss in Dark Souls 3. For the record, however, I will admit that I actually died to Deacons round about 6 or 7 times when I first played. It is pretty shocking to me now. When I think back to it, I think the reason was, again, I was using a slow weapon, the halberd, and the halberd just doesn't live up to its name from previous titles. In Dark Souls 3, it's rather pointless as your attacks need to be fast in this game. Especially with the Deacons, you just need to dispatch them quickly, as, believe it or not, I'm not sure if everybody is aware of this, but in the second phase they start to cast Curse! And that is essentially what was making the Deacons so difficult for me first time round. I didn't know how to stop it. Nowadays, they are so trivial, it's amazing how one boss can cause you so much trouble, but then end up being number 1 in some YouTube video you've made. With a fast-hitting weapon like the Asura Sword, it pretty much destroys them. And then when the main Deacon spawns in the second phase, throw out a couple of alluring skulls to pull the enemies away. Then you can freely go to town on the Deacon with no worries whatsoever. Easiest boss of Dark Souls 3. One of the easiest bosses ever. And so that's it. Another easiest bosses list in the can. I hope you enjoyed this one. Next up will be Dark Souls 2, so that'll be a lot of fun. Hope to see you there, and bye for now.